friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie, yo 714. Tighten that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters. It is the middle of the week once again, my friends. So y'all know who we're about to go back to. Mike from that chapter. That chapter Wednesday, Bean Team. Hope y'all doing excelente out there today. And I'm glad that you came on back to the channel once again to help with the bean. And the title of the video is Husband Vlogs Family Kept in House of Horrors for Decade. Now, decade is a long time, Bean Team. That's 10 plus years, man. And I'm wondering, did this family end up getting up out of this house of horrors? Or did some of them die in the house of horrors? Or did all of them die? I don't know, but we're about to see. But before we see, Bean Team, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please. It is always a delight when we get to go back to Mike. Y'all got what y'all need, y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike. And in this sole video, we are looking at a very bizarre story, though, bizarre is quite the understatement.
Next to me is now sitting Prime Mother. In a moment, Manhatsho, who is in spirit world, will enter her body.
A man believed he was a prophet and trapped his family in a secluded room in a secluded house for a decade, documenting everything and telling them they were the only people left alive.
And what you believe?
It was a family of ghosts, and that house, it was a house of horrors. But before we get into all of that, please subscribe to see new stories for the dark every single Tuesday. Now, you and I, let's give this insane story, and I really mean that, a go.
Let's give it a go. And get whatever you may need. And out of all the crazy stuff we just heard right there, y'all, the thing that stuck out to me was the fact that Mike said that the man was telling them that they was the only ones on Earth still alive. Like, can you imagine that, being stuck in a room and literally thinking in your head that you the only people left alive on the whole planet? Let's give it a go.
There's a lonely village in the Netherlands, far from anywhere you ever would have heard of. It's surrounded by farmlands and fields, and in that small village, called Runerwald, people, they had their theories. See, on the edge of town, down a dark dirt road with thick trees on either side, lay a farmhouse. No one knew what went on in that farmhouse, though all the locals, they sort of had their own ideas. Drugs, trafficking, a serial killer, perhaps. The house was down this, in the remotest of the remote part of town. It was surrounded by these very tall fences, so there's no way to get in. There was even security cameras at various points around the place, and anytime somebody tried to even get close to it, how's it going, neighbor? This man would come up and immediately send them on their way. It seemed like this was less of a house and more of a fortress. But whether it was to keep people in or keep people out, no one knew. The only thing that the locals did know was that every single morning for the past 9 years, this older man would drive in his little car down that dirt road and he would visit that house every single morning. He wasn't a local. He spoke Dutch with this really heavy accent. Nobody knew anything about him, much less even his name, and he seemed very content to keep it that way. But what was really going on in that house would not only shock the locals, it would shock the country. The horrifying secret would only be revealed, strangely enough, in a small bar in the town of Runerwald called Eat Café de Castelline.
And the crazy part is, y'all, he wasn't even living in the house where he had his family trapped at. You know what I'm saying? Mike said he would go visit every day for 9 years. That make this even more crazy.
You can stop in there for a beer and a bite. And late one Sunday in 2019, the bartender working there, named Chris, well, he was pushing away chairs, wiping down tables as it was almost closing time. On Sundays, the bar closes at 1 a.m. and it was quickly approaching that hour. It's generally pretty quiet around then, as you can imagine. Folks, up early for work the following Monday morning, and so as he was getting ready to start closing up the place, there was only a handful of people in the quieter corners of the bar, and even they were starting to finish off their last drinks, put on their coats for the dark October night it was outside. So Chris was kind of surprised when he heard the door open and the cold wind blow in. I mean, who would be walking into the bar at this hour just as they're getting ready to close up? Chris saw this man walk in and march straight for the bar, and Chris was wary immediately of whoever this lad was. He had to stop himself from saying, "Oh, bar is closing," because he just had a really weird feeling about whoever this man was. He immediately put you on edge. There was something off, seriously off about whoever this guy was. This is a quiet town, essentially in the middle of nowhere. Every person who is not a regular sticks out. But this guy was more than that. He was in his mid-20s, youthful face, though it was hard to say, sickly pale, bearded, long blonde hair, and he looked like he hadn't showered in weeks. He had this sort of confused expression on his face, like he was having some kind of inner turmoil, as if he was trying to formulate the words of what it is he wanted to say. Thing was, Chris had actually seen this guy outside the bar before, about a week earlier, out the window just staring in. He hadn't come in, but now I guess he had a change of heart. So the guy marched in, went to the bar and ordered a beer, and then he drank it like he was on the clock, down to almost in one. Then he says, "Thank you," in Dutch. "Give me another. Keep him coming. Keep him coming." Drank it down. Drank it down. He drank 5 beers in the space of about 10 minutes.
Damn.
The entire time saying nothing to Chris, the bartender, nor anybody else in there. He then finished his 5th drink, stood there, once again was looking sort of lost and confused. He was then finally able to formulate words, and what he said would push Chris over the edge his appearance had put him on. He said he had run away and that he needed help. He said his name was Israel, and his father, Garrett, had kept him and 5 of his siblings hidden in this secret room in this secluded house for almost 10 years. "I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. Please, my family is probably already looking for me." That was not exactly the words Chris was expecting to come out of his mouth, so he was kind of a little bit stunned. It's not something you hear every day, I'll give him that. And so he was, oh geez. And the thing was, he looked like somebody who had been kept in a secret room in a secret house for years. He looked like he hadn't showered in a long ass time. The only thing to do, Chris thought, call the police.
Boy, that's
It took
crazy.
the authorities some time to arrive that dark autumn night, and when they did, in the witching hour, they listened to what Israel had to say, sitting in a seat at the bar, a stunned Chris standing in the corner. At first, they asked for Israel's ID. He didn't have any. They then asked for his full name. Israel Van Dorsten was the answer. They entered his name into their database. Nothing. Clackety clackety.
Like this dude, the damn man who got them trapped in his house, it's like he almost made probably all their names just disappear, like they didn't even exist no more. Or maybe this what it is. He freaking told Israel that that's his real name. That's not even his real name. And another thing that's so crazy, being team, is just the fact that Israel is in his mid-20s, y'all. Like, he is a grown adult at this point, and he still was getting abused by this dude, because it's almost like this man had his own cult going on. Long story short, story long, he was a cult leader. At least that's what I'm thinking so far. Let's keep going.
Computer says no. Computer says nothing. Nothing is coming up. You are not listed on any register in the entire country of the Netherlands. According to our government database of citizens of, the state, you don't exist. By all accounts, he was a ghost. He was not a person. And that was the God's honest truth. Israel didn't exist. He'd been kept in that bunker, in bunkers, multiple, his entire life. The story he told, and the story that would come out over the following weeks and months, pretty batshit. Yeah. And before we continue, this story is all about this secret family.
I think Mike gone to his commercial, y'all. Yeah, and I stand corrected because Mike just said, so I'm thinking from what Mike just said that Israel would never even, he didn't get born in a hospital. He just been trapped down there for all his freaking life. That's more than freaking 10 years. Well, Mike did say bunkers. Ain't no telling how long this freaking cult leader husband, crazy lunatic, been having these people kidnapped and stuff. Now I'm starting to think that Israel had been kidnapped from the day he was freaking born. Literally. I don't know, y'all. Let's keep going, man. Let's keep finding stuff out. I feel like it's just now. We ain't got to the crazy-ish yet, being team. But we're about to get to it.
All with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you so much to NordVPN for sponsoring and supporting that chapter. Now let's get back to it. Israel was born on January 31st, 1994. The fourth child to Gerrit van Dorsten and his wife, Hae-Jin Moon. He was a home birth. It was extremely difficult for his mother, Hae-Jin. She almost died during it, and Gerrit refused to call a doctor. Israel was their first child to not be registered, and the family moved around quite a bit during those early years. Together, Gerrit and Hae-Jin would have 9 children, the majority of them, according to the government, not existing on paper. See how Gerrit van Dorsten and Hae-Jin Moon met. Well, that was basically the start of this long, crazy train that just began in interest in spirituality and religion. Platform number 1, and then it ended in platform number 1,000,000, which is a cult house of horrors. Gerrit van Dorsten would post frequently on social media. The house, the secret, the cult, he didn't really post much about that. Under the name John Eagles, he was spreading the word, talking of faith and religion and exercise, quite frankly, he was big into that. Gerrit van Dorsten grew up in the Netherlands and had been married before Hae-Jin, but had left his first wife and joined the Unification Church. This was in the late 80s. Now, the Unification Church is pretty interesting. It's a derivative of Christianity, though the name Moonies might also be how you may have heard of them. It began in Seoul, South Korea, by Sung Myung Moon, hence Moonies, and Sung Myung believed he was the second coming of Jesus. Look at you. One of the core traditions of the Unification Church is these, mass wedding ceremonies. And when I say mass, I mean thousands of people getting married at the very same time. Maybe not the best idea for you bridezillas out there. Happiest day of his life. And it was at one of these mass wedding ceremonies that Gerrit, he met and married an Italian woman, though I don't think he had much choice in who he was marrying, and their marriage lasted less time than it took for me to just tell you about it. Then in the 80s, he met another woman, his third wife, Hae-Jin Moon. Now, as you probably have guessed, Hae-Jin Moon was not her birth name. In fact, not really much is known about her. She was born and raised in Austria under a different name, moved to Korea, and became a member of the church. And then while she was in Korea as a member of the church, well, see, didn't the spirit of a South Korean woman enter her body and just took over her physical being? As you do. So now, this Austrian woman, who nobody knows her actual Austrian name, became Hae-Jin Moon. That's how she got the name. In fact, the name Hae-Jin Moon, it's believed that it was one of Sung Myung Moon's, the leader at the time of the church. He had a daughter that passed away as a baby, so, well, she just kind of well, that's me now, I guess. Folks, we are still in the normal part of this story. At time, Hae-Jin's spirit, the real Hae-Jin who passed away, would enter her body, and her and Gerrit would have these conversations for days it could last. Garrett was a true believer in spirits entering your body and you becoming someone else for minutes or days at a time.
Next to me is now sitting Prime Mother, but in a moment, the attendant Manhatsho, who is in spirit world, will enter her body, and then I will speak with Manhatsho. So please, Manhatsho, can you come in Prime Mother's body? Hello, Manhatsho. You hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Strange things going on, eh?
Yes. Yes, I don't understand it. Something new.
Yes.
Yes. New is going on.
I mean, that's pretty funny. But this will get dark. So Garrett and Hae-jin would move back to the Netherlands and they lived in small towns here and there, the family growing one child at a time. The first three children, Shin, Marianne and Adino, were sorta normal, as in they went to school, socialized, were registered on birth records, though the three oldest children were always taught, warned might be a better way, at a very young age, to never speak about their younger siblings who were not registered on any records.
Jongens, vandaag is het de 28ste van de 10 maand, ja 9999. En ik wil jullie nog wat uitleggen waarom je op school niet over Israël en mag praten. God die heeft tegen papa gezegd dat papa nu over dit onderwerp tegen jullie moet praten. Om je dat uit te leggen. Maar als papa nou niet met God zou praten, dan kon God dat ook niet tegen papa zeggen. Eigenlijk zou God helemaal niet willen dat jullie op zo'n school zaten. Maar omdat de mensen denken dat het zo moet, dan verplichten ze dat alle kinderen naar school gaan. Maar Israël en hebben papa en mama een foefje mee uitgehaald en die hoeven straks niet naar school. Die hoeven alleen maar op Godschool. Maar omdat jullie naar deze school gaan, hoeven Israël en dat niet meer. Met jullie konden papa en mama dat nog niet doen. Ja? Best is gewoon maar er helemaal niet over te praten en maar net te doen op school alsof Israël en er helemaal niet zijn. Ja? Dat is het beste. Je moet er helemaal niks over zeggen. Edino, snap je dat wel? Moet je niks over zeggen. Ja? Dat is ons geheimpje. Hè? Wij hebben samen een geheimpje met God. We hebben samen een geheimpje. En dat mag niemand weten. Ja? Daar mag je nooit wat over verklappen. Want anders dan stoppen ze papa misschien wel in de gevangenis anders. Nou, dat wil je toch helemaal niet.
And it's crazy how y'all we can listen to that and know that it's full of bullshit. Long story short, story long, like we know how terrible what he was just telling his kids is. But to those children, they looking at it and they taking it as gospel. They taking it as the truth. You know what I'm saying? They taking it as righteous. You know what I'm saying? Like God really do feel like that. And that's one of the most disgusting things about it. How he just keep bringing God into it. Like God, the one who got us in this situation, and he telling me to tell y'all. Like, it's just so disgusting and nasty, y'all. But for those little kids, they looking up to their father like, yes, Father, we believe you 100%. The devil is a freaking lie, Bean Team, and this man here is literally the devil. And like I said earlier, Mike already confirmed it, that it's a freaking cult. You might as well go and call it. And I'm just going to throw this out here, and I'm hoping I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong on this. But I got another prediction, Bean Team. And the prediction is that Gareth going to start sexually assaulting his kids. Somewhere in this story, man, we know how it goes with these damn cult leaders. We know what they be doing to the little children now. I'm hoping that ain't the case. But let's see.
Garrett would say if you speak about these kids, questions might be asked by teachers, why aren't your younger kids in school? They're not on any records. And so he would say, well, if you talk about your younger kids, you talk about this secret, Daddy's gonna go to jail, and you won't like that very much. That was the reason Garrett didn't want any of his kids registered. Because if they were registered and then, they didn't end up going to school, social services would be called, and all of that sort of stuff. And Garrett had his own little plan for his kids and for the future. Really for us all, folks, for humanity as a whole. See, in the Unification Church, the leader believed himself to be Messiah reborn. But Gerrit van Dorsten says, well, maybe I could be the Messiah reborn. Have you thought about that? So he had his little Van Dorsten clan, where he was the leader, and they were going to create this utopia. Someday. Start off in the bunker. Start small. If you can control the bunker, you can control the world. Everybody would die. The world there would be an apocalypse, and himself and his kids and any other believers out there would inherit it. They would start their own country. You better conform. His kids would be, leaders of this new country, and yep, it's as crazy as it sounds.
Like delusional. Long story short, story long. That's some delusional ass ish I just heard right there. We just heard.
So in Eden we have complete justice. Now, I want to specify, I want to narrow down this question to that of individual responsibility and individual fate. So, you are you, and you have a responsibility. And complete justice in Eden means that justice is done to you. So, when you know what to do, then you are responsible to do what you have to do.
Garrett would record hundreds of videos over the years, trying to explain what it was he believed and what he thought was going to happen. See, Garrett was certainly the head of the household, known as the prime father. Hey Jin, caring mother. Sort of. Rarely speaking up, but when she did, you would listen to what she had to say. She was like the strong, silent type in this entire family environment. And, you'll see some clips of her that might make you think she wasn't great. They would move around frequently, living at one point in a town called Haslet. And there, Garrett found a like-minded soul named Joseph Brunner, an Austrian, a fellow Moonie. They would in fact become so close as next-door neighbours that they would demolish the walls between their houses and their gardens and basically just have this one big house for them all to live in. Now, not much is known about Joseph Brunner. There's no even pictures of him available. But neighbours during this time would say he was a real kind of a bastard. Like, he was a real grumpy bitch. Never said hello to anybody, just seemed like he was in a bad mood all the time. No wife, no girlfriend, no partner, no nothing. Seemed to just kind of stick to himself, but he was known as a very skilled carpenter. And so that's why Gerrit van Dorsten was like, here, listen, you're my little sidekick from here on out. You're my little lackey. You can build shit for this utopia. Great. As years went by, as Garrett expanded his cinematic cult universe with these vlogs and videos, his insanity only grew and grew, as did his cruelty towards his own children. Garrett had a dark side to him, a side to him he was freely allowed to access under the guise of his cult, and he could indulge in his worst desires of beatings, cruelty, abuse, and ultimate control over those around him, to not even allow them to see the sun. The children kept in these makeshift rooms would not be allowed out for months at a time, kept in these rundown homes in sleeping bags at all times.
So children, today it is the 16th of September, the year 2003. And today we are starting with something new. This new is called Teaching for Children.
What started out Garrett, though, on this long path to insanity is kind of already not known. It was really, he joined the Unification Church in the Netherlands with his brother. In the early 80s, his parents were very much against them joining up, but he did anyway. He joined, went to ceremonies in the Netherlands and then in Germany, and then eventually went over to Korea. But that was it. Garrett, over time, believed that only he and his You know, immediate family were the right ones, everybody outside was wrong. Everybody outside was corrupt, evil, gonna die. Except that. The oldest children, for example, Shin, Marianne, and Adino, the ones who went to school, who interacted with the outside world, because the other 6 children they would have were the ones who didn't see the outside world. They were the ones nobody knew even existed. They were the ones kept in bunkers their entire life. But the reason was, Garrett believed his older children who were socialized were evil and corrupted. For example,
Like, that don't even make no sense. Where's the logic in this man thinking?
he would keep one of his children, Adino, in a dog cage for a year. Marianne, another one of the oldest, he beat and strangled so bad she was knocked out for 3 days. When he came to, he was proud of her. He had beat the devil out of her. He hated his oldest children. He would say to their faces he wished he could kill them. But as they were the children the government was aware of, they'd be missed if they didn't attend school. He told them not even to make eye contact with the others, in case their evil eyes corrupt them. Their world was an evil place, and only Garrett could make it right. And you, listen, you specifically, you better, stick close to him. You know what? Or else, something. He would build new rooms in the houses, he would subdivide them with the help of Joseph the handyman carpenter, of course. He would isolate his oldest children. He would isolate his children willy-nilly and just build these little compounds inside of houses that were just totally blocked off from the outside. He was basically caging up every single person, and then it was daily prayers, daily lectures, daily beatings, daily horrors.
Ik herken de geur gewoon nog. En jij?
Oh my God.
Zo. Zorg voor me ben. Ik kan niet geloven dat dit ooit dit vet. Wat is hier? Wat is... Alles in elkaar gestopt.
Like, this is disgusting, man. Just looking at that house just make me realize that he was treating his children worse than a person would treat a dog. You know what I'm saying? Worse than a person would treat a freaking animal out here, y'all. Like, oh my God, man, this is so terrible. Then, speaking of animals, one thing that Mike said that got me is that he had one of his sons locked up in a dog cage for more than a year. Boy, and then another thing real quick, big team. When he was talking, when Garrett was saying in the year 2003, I'm just sitting back thinking like 2003? That wasn't even that long ago. Now, it may sound long ago. It's what, 22 years ago? But I promise you, being team, I know y'all know 22 years is not as long as you really think. When you really think about it, man, 22 years be gone like that. We'll wake up, you feel like you waking up tomorrow and it'll be 2047. I'm just saying. Watch how fast time fly. Watch how fast time flies.
Beatings, humiliations, all of it was pretty continuous for everyone, only getting worse over time. The horrors in that house increasing daily, while Heijin just sorta stood by.
Come. Come close to me. Do you dare to do it?
No.
Huh?
You come with this chair. So. You go sit in there. And sit there on. Now, Israel, on the chair. On the chair. On the chair. I'm good at sitting on her chair. No, he doesn't want to do it. I show you. Go away.
Liberty, child of God, Liebes Kind.
I'm cutting away here because you don't want to see what he does. He pushes his young daughter very violently out of the chair.
I want to serve. I want to serve.
Heijin just there, kind of smiling as her 2 or 3-year-old daughter is. Yeah, it's pretty sickening.
Did it hurt? Or not?
You can sit next to me.
This was only a game, okay?
At one point, Heijin had attempted to run away, but she was dragged back by Garrett, of course, kicking and screaming. One of the reasons, though, she may have stayed so close was that Heijin herself was in fact slowly dying. She seemed to be getting sicker and sicker over time, and nobody knew what. Nobody knew why Heijin was ill, but every day she'd be weaker than the last. But, you know, Big Dog, go to the doctor? Go to the hospital? You must be joking. Not in Gerrit Van Dorsen's. You should pray harder. Have you tried praying harder yet? You're clearly not praying hard enough. And then, when in 2004, Heijin Moon passed away of cancer, of colon cancer, Gerrit said to the kids, she just didn't have enough faith. And the insanity and horrors in the house continued.
But maybe it's only on image. Image. Maybe this image is wrong. Maybe I'm not such an idiot. Maybe I'm just normal. Maybe my image of an idiot comes from some idiotic people. Anyway, I believe in the future because it comes from God. And what you believe, that's your shit. Bye-bye.
What?
So he would do this with Heijin, you know, a spirit entering her body. And then he did do it with the older children too. He's a big believer in the whole spirit entering your body shenanigans. And the older children, as they grew older, I mean, they sort of knew, bit of a farce, you know, it's a bit of a game. But of course you got to play along with it, otherwise you're going to get a knuckle sandwich. It was just easier to go along with it, because of course if you denied it, you were evil. You were corrupt, you'd get punished. You could be sleeping outside in the dog kennel for a year. Thing was though, when Mom, Heijin Moon, passed away, her spirit kind of decided to stick around a little bit. It entered the body of Edino, one of the older boys, and so he had to act like his dead mom. He was 12 at the time, and at first it would be for a few hours, then longer and longer. And Gerrit really treated his son like his wife. Edino knew what was happening, but he still had to act like his dead mom. And the other children, you know, the 8 other kids would have to treat Edino like he was their mom. The exact same way, or else Gerrit would get furious because his beliefs were not, you know, they weren't acting as his beliefs, so Edino would have to dress like mom, wear mom's perfumes, all that kind of thing, cook for everybody, take care of them all. It's all incredibly disturbing and messed up. But of course the most disturbing thing was he treated his son, his 12-year-old son, like his wife, in the way that husbands would act with their wives. You know what I mean. Edino wasn't the only one. His daughter, he also treated like his wife when his wife passed away, saying, well, her spirit is in you, so it's her. Yeah. And this...
Oh my God, Bean Team, man. I swear, man, this is one of the most craziest stories I ever heard from Mike. And that is saying a freaking lot, man. Oh my God. Then and we knew it was coming, that at some point he was going to start sexually assaulting his children. Well, I already said that. But the whole having his son dress up like his deceased wife, which is their mother, and got this little 12-year-old boy walking around acting like her, dressing like her, wearing her perfume, and the whole time the little boy, at this point, he 12 years old, and he done figured out that I don't feel like my mama on me. You know what I'm saying? But he gotta go along with this game. Man, this story right here, this one here crazy. It's like it would never cease to amaze me how many cult stories there are out here, Bean Team. That's why I be saying, man, I said it from a Mr. Ballin video a couple of months ago, and I'm still believing it to this day. I'm always believe it. It's a cult in every goddamn like major city in America, at the very least. If you live in somewhat of a major city, somewhere within one of those neighborhoods, it's a cult going on, and you don't even freaking know it. Crazy. Let's go. Good video.
led the family to the lonely farmhouse close to Runerwald. Loyal dog Joseph Bruner, of course, joining them. But by this time, the two oldest kids had escaped. Marianne in 2008 and Shin the following year. They simply snuck out of the home one night and never looked back. Edino himself fled in 2010. In the farm in Runerwald, it was their most isolated place yet. The kids were truly told the outside world was evil, and that they in fact were the only people left alive. None were allowed outside the fence that went around the home, and no one came knocking. The 3 children who had fled were the only registered people. Gerrit himself had actually deregistered as a citizen of the Netherlands, so the government didn't even know he was there, and none of the remaining children existed on paper. And this farmhouse was rented by Joseph Bruner, so even the owners of the farmhouse they were living in, nobody knew what was happening. This was all off the record. The family didn't even really live in the farmhouse proper. They lived in the secret bunker that was sort of like to the side and beneath the farmhouse. To get in there, the entrance to where they lived was a secret door behind a cupboard. See, one of the deals that Joseph Bruner made with the owners of this farmhouse in Runerwald was that it was owned by this couple who owned like lots of property. This farmhouse was sort of decrepit, falling apart. So Joseph said, all right, you give me a cheap rent. You give me a good deal on this place and I'll fix it up for you. And he made a lot of alterations to that house that the owners were unaware of, including building a secret attachment door hidden behind a cupboard. So you'd open this secret door and you'd be in this like pitch black corridor that was sort of like a maze running through this newly constructed part of the house. Following that through the darkness, you would eventually end up in this little damp room. Just the couch and hay bales there as furniture. And they all slept in there in these little sleeping bags. Only person allowed to leave was Gerrit. The kids were rarely allowed outside except for whatever task Gerrit had them do. Exercise was the only one he seemed to make a priority. And Joseph would come every morning and drop off food or whatever supplies they needed. It was a house of horrors, though house of horrors in a secret bunker of horrors might be more appropriate. Beatings, humiliation, ice cold baths till they literally couldn't speak anymore. All of it was daily, every day. Like, for example, one thing he would do was hit them with this invisible sword, which he said, if I hit you with this sword, if you've been bad, corrupted, it'll kill you. So he would swing the sword at the kids and they would have to throw themselves on the ground and pretend to be unconscious. And then they'd wake up a little bit while later and say, oh, well, I'm clearly one of the good ones because I'm not dead. And it would turn out that his children weren't the only prisoners Gerrit kept. Years before, in another house in the Netherlands, he'd kept Hejin's father and her son from a previous marriage. He kept them locked in the attic. They had their own rules. The third rule being the most important. Prisoners have one major task: to prepare themselves for receiving evil tribe therapy, which is needed for them to separate them from evil, and so to prepare them for regaining their relationship to God. Gerrit would receive money from Hejin's first husband, the boy's father, as he too was fully invested in Gerrit being the Messiah. Eventually, they both would be returned to Austria, likely when Gerrit and company continued moving. Hejin's father passed away. No one knows what became of her son.
Like, this dude ain't just on kidnapping, not kidnapping, well, in a way, kidnapping people, what I should say, holding them hostage or whatever. He doing it to grown adults too. He doing it to a man way older than him. His wife freaking daddy. You know what I'm saying? His daddy-in-law. Like, what the freak holding him captive, y'all? Then he got people on the outside who working with him, like Joseph, like that child's father, Mejan's son before they even got together, father. Like, man, this Ishbeen team. Jesus.
For 9 years, they lived in the basement in that house in Runerwald, waiting for the end of time. And slowly, over time, Israel, who was now the oldest remaining child, he began to poke holes in the shroud their father had covered them in. But he rarely saw the outside world, and just as he got older, he was more curious about it. He knew the outside world existed because his 3 older siblings had all escaped. They had all booked it. So where did they go? There was a computer in the home, a computer which of course Garrett was only allowed to use. Israel, in the dark of the night, would slowly start to use that computer himself. Garrett, while living in Runerwold, would actually suffer a stroke and become bedbound, which is kind of ironic when he said that his wife had died because she didn't believe hard enough. I guess he didn't believe hard enough either. But none of the kids dared leave, even though the Messiah couldn't stop them. They were each other's jailers. They were each other's prisoners now at this point. Garrett made Israel the man of the house. He was the one who had to deal with Joseph, had to just manage things, around the home. Deal with Joseph when he brings supplies and so forth. By the way, Joseph was never paid for any of this. He just did it because he was a true believer. Hard to get good true believers these days, isn't it? Throughout all of this, Garrett continued posting on socials. He had his little websites, which are still up today if you can believe that, like the Eagle Rock Wiki, where he, as always, posted as his pseudonym, John Eagles. As for Israel, now having some degree of freedom, he finally managed to actually get himself a smart phone. His dad, Garrett, had sent him out to town to get some special supplies one day, and he snuck himself a little phone. He began to see more and more about what was really going on in the outside world. And so finally Israel thought, you know what, it's time to actually get out there. It's time to finally escape his father. See the world he'd been told didn't exist. And so finally one night he did just that. In the darkness of the night, he crept silently out of his house. At this point, Garrett was bedridden, so his younger siblings were his jailers. They were the ones he needed to be scared of in case he alerted them. But he managed to get out, and he started towards the closest town, Runerwald. As he got closer and closer, he heard music, he saw lights, he saw the bar, Eat Café de Castelline. He didn't dare go in, so he simply stood outside a while, watching the people inside, laughing, having a good time. Having a good time in a world he'd been told didn't exist anymore. And he returned back to the farm. He presumed nobody knew he had escaped and seen things, that night. And so about a week passed. Israel thought, whew, got away with that one. Until Garrett, lying on a mattress in the middle of this little bunker, beckoned him over one day, about a week after he first went on a little escapade. And Garrett said, "What's in your pocket?" Garrett, though bedbound, eyes like an eagle, he saw every single thing that went on. And though he couldn't move, he still had his daily lectures, his daily this, his daily that. If he couldn't beat you, he'd get somebody else to beat you. So this time he asked Israel, "What's in your pocket? What do you keep hiding in your pocket?" It was Israel's phone. Israel thought about hiding the phone away, denying it existed. He said it seemed useless, so he just admitted to his dad that, yeah, he had a phone. He was curious about the outside world, brought his phone in, gave it to his dad. His dad, Garrett, simply nodded. He knew the punishment. 3 days, sleeping outside, no food. And that was when Israel said, "I need to get out of here for good."
Like, seriously.
Once again, as darkness fell, he crept out of the house and made it to Runerwold. This time, he walked in and he asked for help. The police arrived. He told them, not everything I told, but most of what I just told you. The parts he knew anyway. And the police were baffled, to say the least. And as he didn't exist on the system, they had no way of verifying who he was, much less his story. And so, they said, "Well, we gotta take you back to your farm, so..." Which was, of course, the last thing in the world Israel wanted. They were going to take... Where else are they going to do? What else are they going to do with you? They said, "Alright, pop in the police car. Take you back to the farm." Israel began shitting himself. We'll look into this whole farm, family, cult, bunker, whole dealio, but you know what? We'll do it in the morning, because it's getting pretty late. So, we'll check all that stuff out in the morning. So they literally just dropped Israel outside the farm. That was it. They didn't even knock on the door. They said, "Alright, here you go. Here you are. Home at last. Home sweet home. The place you were just telling us you had escaped from. That's kind of weird. Okay. But not our problem. At least not right now. Listen, their shift was about to end. Mrs. is waiting for me." So Israel was outside the farmhouse now, alone, being sort of brought back against his will to the cult. He just stood outside there. And he could see in the windows of the farmhouse flashlights moving around. They were looking for him. Israel would say he stood outside there, sat on the grass outside the farm for about an hour, not knowing what to do. He couldn't go back. He'd tried to escape and they had brought him back. So where the hell else is he supposed to go? He doesn't even know the outside world, how it works, much less who'd ask for help. At least the people, you think he would ask for help well, they weren't much use. He ended up walking to another town, as Runerwald ended up being a fucking waste of time. So he ended up walking to another town and just wanted to sleep. He ended up going to a bus bench, just lay down there and slept. Then at about 8 a.m., another passing by police officer, "Can't be at that. What you doing sleeping here? You can't be at that." Israel told him again the story he had already told about running away from the cult. The police officer said, "One of my co-workers just told me about a report he wrote up about what you're saying. Let's go." He was then taken to the station and the entire real story tumbled out. His older siblings, who he hadn't seen in years, in over a decade in some of their cases, they heard they finally came. They would say they had tried to go back to visit the family multiple times, but they just were never able to get through to any of them. They tried to, help their younger siblings, but it just never worked. And they believed as well that if they went and rescued their younger siblings who were still kept in the bunker, weirdly enough, they didn't want to do it because they thought that their younger siblings might hate them if they rescued them, because the younger siblings were so indoctrinated in their father's beliefs. They didn't want to be taken away. The police, they went to the farmhouse, knocked on the door. Joseph swaddles out saying, what yous doing here? The police, search warrant, buddy.
Search warrant, buddy. Man, it's kind of, I don't know how I feel about the older siblings saying that they ain't want to, try to go rescue their younger ones because they ain't want them to hate them. They ain't want their little sisters and brothers to hate them. And they really believe the father. Now, I do believe that the younger siblings believe the father, Garrett, more than the older ones, because the older ones at least went to school for some years and knew about the outside world. So I get it, but I don't know how I feel about that. But finally, y'all, we got a search warrant. Hopefully all these kids will be took away from this home.
They kicked in the door of the home, and at first they thought a false report, that Israel was talking pure shite, that it was non-existent. They were looking around this entire place. It's empty. Nobody is here. Then they called back to the station saying, yeah, the house is empty. Oh. There's a secret door in here. There's a secret door behind that cupboard. Take a look in there. They went in there, made their way down to this secret house of horrors, finding 5 frightened children, all of them sitting on hay, looking at people who must have been monsters to them from hell, because they thought everybody in the world was dead. And then, of course, lying in a mattress in the center of the room was Gerrit Van Dorsten, staring up at the police with glassy eyes, completely gone. Gerrit was arrested. As he lay there, Joseph the Austrian, his sidekick, along with him. It was over.
Dutch police have discovered a family who spent nearly a decade hidden away on a remote farm, apparently waiting for the end of time. A father and his 5 adult children were found after his eldest son turned up in a local town. The children were aged between 18 and 25. None of their births had been registered.
A secluded farmhouse hidden away behind trees and bushes. No one was really sure who lived here or what went on inside these walls. It was all a mystery until a young man walked into a local pub, drank 5 beers and asked for help.
Je zag direct al dat hij een verwarde blik had dan. I could immediately see he was confused. He had long hair and a dirty beard and dirty old clothes. It didn't make sense.
When police arrived, they found his father and 4 siblings living in a small space in the house that could be locked, and it wasn't known if they were there voluntarily. They'd been there, apparently alone, for years, surviving on homegrown vegetables and livestock. It's not clear if any of the children had ever gone to school or even knew that other people existed.
When this all came out, police actually thought Joseph was the cult leader and that he had locked the family away. But it seems like he was more under Gerrit's thumb, probably wishing he could be in there with them. Tens of thousands of euros were found inside the home, and Gerrit would ultimately be charged with deprivation of liberty, money laundering, and when the older children came forward about what had happened over the years, he would also be charged with multiple counts of sexual abuse. The money laundering, by the way, I'm not sure. I don't know exactly how he got the money to pay for these houses and so forth. The one in Runerwald was rented, where he found the cash to pay. Who knows? But when the police made it in, they found a lot of money in there. Later reported to be over 100,000 euros, which is approximately the same amount in dollars. And the thing was, the oldest children, the 4 oldest, the 3 who had escaped, and Israel, they all wanted Garrett charged with everything, including the sexual abuse, of course. They wanted him charged with all of the crimes he had committed against them all. The younger 5 children who had stayed, they said no, don't charge him. He's the Messiah. You can't charge him with anything. He's our hero. They would say he's innocent, never hurt a fly. All those accusations they are saying he did, it's bullshit. In the end, the charges against Garrett would actually be terminated due to his medical condition. They felt he was in such poor health, there wasn't much more they could do to him, I guess. By this point, it seems he was gone in the head. Gerrit van Dorsten is currently 73 years of age, still living in the Netherlands. Some of his children still live with him. Joseph Brunner was sentenced to 3 years in prison in 2022, minus the time already served, so he is out already himself. Likely still with Gerrit. And the oldest children are trying to live the best life they possibly can to this day. And Shine, folks, that is the story of the ghost family, the House of Horrors in Runnerwald. It's messed up. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It really means a lot to me that you're here. This was an insane story which I just kind of stumbled across about the secret family kept in a secret room in this House of Horrors. It was so incredibly messed up, I had to tell you. But by the way, if you want to learn more about this story, there's an amazing Dutch documentary called Children of the Runnerwald, which you can find. It actually follows the children, the older children after they've, escaped. Israel follows him around, in the weeks after. Very, very interesting to hear their points of view on it all. The BBC did a dubbing of it, so it's easy enough to find. But, or subtitled it. So go check it out. But also check out the That Chapter podcast, which has a brand new episode out every single Monday. Recently we talked about Karl Panzram, Alain Leger, the Hex Hollow murder, and more. So please give them a go. But until the next old one every Tuesday, folks. Until then, please take care of each other and please take care of yourself. Because I love you. Mike out.
Man, Bean Team, that one right there was on some next level-ish from Mike, Bean Team. Like, oh my God, like, it's so much stuff I can say about this one, but we already been here long enough, y'all. So I'm just gonna touch on some of the last points about the story, which is the craziest part to me. I don't give a damn how old Garrett was. He's 73, whatever, and he ain't get locked up, y'all, because he's so old and senile now or whatever. Now, this went in the United States, so I don't know what they got going over there in that country, y'all, but I still feel like he should be locked up. But at the same time, I feel like this is one of those cases where at this point, is it one of those, well, God gonna get him. You know what I'm saying, man? He gonna get what he deserve after he pass a freaking way. Also, it's just sad how his younger siblings, the younger kids, they didn't even freaking like. And still to this day, because some of them still living with him right now, but they never really even like thought he did anything wrong ever. You know what I'm saying? They don't blame him for anything. They didn't want to charge him with anything. It's just messed up how they had to live their whole life like that. And they actually thought and still think to this day it's okay. It was okay, man. This one was whoa, dude. Like, the title sound crazy-ish. Husband vlogs family kept in House of Horrors for decade. But boy, it's a lot more than the title. The title is just the tip of the iceberg, Bean Team. And this iceberg is crazy as freaking hell, y'all. This a cold ass iceberg, man. Oh my freaking God, y'all. Another freaking cult, man. I'm telling you, we be watching these videos. We done heard about so many cults till it just done really opened my eyes to how many of these actually exist in the freaking world, y'all. But I digress. I'm gonna go let y'all go, Big T. But I appreciate y'all coming on back as always. And before you leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.